Hi, I'm Chuck Quinton, founder of RotarySwing.com, and today I'm going to help you learn the key secrets to being a consistent ball striker. If you want to be consistent, there are two key things that you have to fix first, and they're directly related. First, if you're like most golfers and swing over the top, you have to fix your swing plane. It has to be reasonable. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to show you how to make it perfect in just a moment, but you have to get it reasonable and so that you can have the club coming down on plane so the ball can start and stay on line. The second thing is you have to stop casting the club. Now, many of you who cast the club and have club head throwaway and are losing lag, you want to get rid of this thing so bad because it's probably been plaguing you for a long time. And I'm going to show you today how to instantly stop casting the club in this simple lesson. Now, what I'm going to share with you today, you've probably never ever heard anybody else talk about. So make sure you watch till the end of this video because you need to understand the whole thing to see how to fix your swing. Now, if you're like most golfers, you probably start the downswing with your hands moving out toward the ball. What does that look like? If you go to the top of your swing and you look at it on video and you see your hands moving this way out toward the ball to start the downswing, that's a death move. And there's a couple things that you're doing I'm going to share with you in the next video that are causing this to happen. But what I'm going to share with you first is what this needs to look like. If you look at the best players in the world, the pros, instead of their hands moving out toward the ball to start the downswing, their hands appear that they're moving straight down. This elusive hand drop, this path of the hand movement, is a make or break deal in your golf swing, and you have to learn how to do this, and I'm going to teach it to you in this video. But first, let's take a look at some tour pros, the best players in the world, so we can see this motion in action.
Let's start with Tiger Woods here. And when we contrast this with the amateurs in just a moment, this is going to blow your mind how different it is. But what I'm going to do first is just play Tiger's swing here. And I'm going to just trace basically the butt of his club, his hand path as it goes up. And you're going to see it's going to do literally the exact opposite of what the amateurs do. And it's going to look like his hands actually go straight down as you watch them move through this path. And in fact, what you'll see is it actually looks like they're moving clockwise. Again, imagine the clock. From your perspective, you're looking at a clock on the wall back behind you, and so clockwise would be this way. Counterclockwise would be rotating this way. So if you watch his hands, you're actually going to see them travel in a clockwise fashion. So they're going to go back on a path that is more outside than what they do on the way down. So you'll see this motion. This is critical. You can see just how much his hands have moved further, deeper into the downswing. And again, when we look at the amateurs in just a moment, that you're going to probably relate to, it's the exact opposite motion. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, well, that's Tiger Woods. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time. I can't swing like Tiger Woods. My swing is a lot more unorthodox. Well, Dustin Johnson's swing is not exactly what I would call classical, but let's take a look at his hand path here and watch the same thing happen. So you'll see his hands go a little bit outside on the way back, but now when it matters, watch what happens as he starts down. First of all, note that the hands, the butt of the club, looks like it's just going straight down rather than out this way, which you're going to see in all the amateurs coming up in just a second. But you're going to watch that his hands literally look like the butt of the club just looks like it goes straight down like this. And again, under where he went back. So you can imagine just this little gentle clockwise loop with the hands gets the club shallowed out and on plane. That's what you need to feel. Now let's take a look at one of the Cordes sisters. Watch as she goes to the top, you're going to see the same thing. If you drew a vertical line down from the butt of the club straight down to the ground, you'll watch how much the club appears to fall and trace very closely to that line. And when we contrast that with the amateurs that you're going to see in just a moment that are going to look very similar to how you probably swing, you're going to see your hands doing this in the downswing rather than shallowing out. So in the next section, I'm going to show you how to do this just like the pros. And you may be thinking, well, no, I have a really short, compact swing like Jon Rahm. Perfect. I love Jon's swing. What an awesome, short, powerful swing this thing is. Watch his hands. So as we go back, we're going to trace the butt of the club on the way back or the middle of his hands, give or take a little bit. And then as he comes down, you're going to see the same thing. You see that vertical drop coming down rather than what you're going to see in just a moment with the hands going out toward the ball. traces that line on the inside perfectly, staying back. This is critical. And again, you can just visualize this tiny little clockwise loop that I'm going to teach you how to do in just a moment with the hands. And this is critical. And this is the secret of the pros of getting the club to shallow out on plane. Look how it drops right through his bicep, through his shoulder, through his bicep, right through his forearm. Perfect position, all by just feeling this little clockwise loop.
So what is it that causes the pros' hands to look like they move straight down to start the downswing, and nearly every amateur on the planet does the opposite and their hands moving out? Well, what are some things we could do? You've probably heard that your hands should just be super passive at the top and your arms should just fall. Well, if that were true, the pros' arms would just look really sloppy and loose, and it would feel really weak. Of course, nobody's arms look like they're just doing this. So it's not just being super passive with your arms, although being relaxed with your arms is important, but you can't just keep them floppy loose. That would feel terrible in your swing, and of course it wouldn't work. It doesn't produce any power. That's not what the pros are doing. So instead, what you need to understand is there are two things that cause this. The first is how your body is moving, which I'm going to talk about later. But what I want you to focus on first is if you can read a clock, you can instantly fix the path of your hands, and this will instantly lead to more consistency, fix your swing plane, and get you to stop casting the club. But before I show you this fix, how to instantly stop coming over the top, how to instantly maintain lag and fix your swing plane and path, let's take a look at some amateur golfers who probably have swing flaws similar to you, so you can see what causes this issue and recognize it in your own swing, and then see how we fixed it in just a simple 10-minute lesson.
Let's start with a few amateur golfers here. First of all, let's start with the one on the left. You're going to see the hands going inside pretty severely, a lot of rolling of the club face. The club face is very open now. And now you're going to see the old dreaded lunge over the top. Oh man, this is tough. Ugh, that's a tough swing to recover from. And of course, you can see if we trace the hand path, you're going to see the hands going in this counterclockwise motion, severely over the top, the exact opposite of the pros. So his hand path is going in this direction, which is the exact opposite of the pros. Now let's take a look at this golfer on the right. You're going to see the same thing. He doesn't take it as severely inside. His takeaway is not bad. Club face isn't rolled open. It's actually even a little bit shut. But you're going to see the exact same thing. So here we've got his hands going up. We're going to trace the butt of the club here, and then boom, there's the over the top hand path. Same thing, straight over. Now, how do we look at this? Imagine again, you're looking at a clock back behind you, and of course, because you're looking at the clock, the camera angle, the clock is going to be reversed. So the numbers would be looking this way. So this would be 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock would be over here. This is very tricky to draw these numbers backwards, I'm not going to lie, but I think we got it figured out. So now the clock from your perspective, clockwise, would be this way. But you can clearly see that Mark's hands in this case are moving counterclockwise, the opposite. His hands were tracing the clock going this way, and that is a death move in the swing. And this is what causes you to come over the top. You're going to see the same stuff that you see in every high handicapper. You can probably recognize this. You can see he's starting to come down, losing lag. The club shaft should be shallowing out through his bicep, under his shoulder, getting through his forearm here. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. It's going right through his left forearm, over the top. Going to have a little chicken wing here and the old dreaded flip. Take another look at another golfer here on the left, and we will see once again the same thing. So in this golfer's case, she's actually doing a great job with the takeaway, which once again shows you that if you can have a perfect takeaway, it doesn't really make much of a difference if you don't understand the overall movement. So backswing stuff doesn't look too bad, but if we trace the butt of the club and her hand path again, you see the change of direction. You saw it right there, that little hitch. And now look where her hands are going. Again, counterclockwise, straight over the top. Now the club's going through her head and through her left arm instead of down here where it should be to get down on plane through her right arm. Now it's severely over the top, club face wide open, club face still looking almost 80 degrees right. So you've got the dreaded over the top whap slice here. You're gonna hit it off the toe. It feels terrible. Her hands are all stuck in close to her body here. No power, wide open face, can't release the club. Another golfer we'll look at, see the same stuff happening here. You're gonna see hand takeaway, not too bad here, but hands going a little bit inside. So now from here, the tendency again is going to be to come straight over the top with that counterclockwise motion. And you see it right there. So now he's doing the same thing. This is going to cause him to cast the club, scoop. Look at his body. You can't even tell he's at impact here. His body looks dead square, so he's just using all arms and hands. Now let's take a look at a student who went through a simple 10-minute lesson that I'm going to share with you as you go through these videos, and you're going to see for yourself just how simple it is to fix these things and fix this hand pass. So watch here. So as he goes back, you're going to see Al takes the club a little bit outside. So again, he's not taking it way to the inside like is common for many golfers. So he's taking it quite a bit outside, pretty upright, and even still with his hands going this far outside, watch what happens as he comes down. So gets to the top, he's got high hands, but you can already see that rotation, right? You can already see it starting to move out this way. His hands are moving out toward the ball, out toward the target line. And now, of course, what do we have? The dreaded severe over the top. His hands went counterclockwise. Still severely, now he's severely over the top. The club's way out of position here, going through his eyeball, not even through his left forearm. The club should be way over here at this point. Obviously, it's over the top, casting it dead. Now, after he went through just a simple 10-minute lesson, watch the club shallow out here. As he goes down, naturally, as I gave him the simple feeling, the club shallows out, and watch how it drops down through the shoulder, down through the bicep, down through the forearm, on plane, from the inside, 1,000 times better, all through this simple change.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about the body movements that cause you to swing over the top and casting the club in the next video. But for now, what I want to talk about is to keep it really simple, how to get your hands to move properly. And all you have to do is be able to read a clock. It's that simple. As soon as you can understand the movement, the direction of movement in relationship to a clock, you're going to be able to instantly stop casting the club and swing it over the top. So if you're right-handed, and that's how I'm going to explain this. I'm going to explain everything as if right-handed. So if you're left-handed, just transpose this to say the opposite of what I'm saying. If you're right-handed, which most golfers are, all you need to think about is a clock in front of you that you're up on a wall, and from your perspective reading that clock, I want you to understand clockwise movement versus counterclockwise movement. If you can put that in your brain, this is all going to be super simple, because if you're casting the club and swinging over the top, or your swing plane is off and steep, and you're losing your posture, which we'll talk about in the next video, then all you need to do is switch the direction of movement with your hands. Now, what do I mean by that? So if you're typically, like most golfers, going a little bit inside per se, and then you go over the top to start down, from your perspective, if you're imagining again the clock on the wall behind you, what direction would your hands be moving to do this movement? Well, they'd be moving counterclockwise, right? Now, I'm exaggerating this, of course, but this is not uncommon for amateur golfers to have their hands go inside, up, and then over. So how would you change that? You would move clockwise with your hands. All you need to do is keep your hands moving in a subtle clockwise circle. I'm going to exaggerate this at first to make it easier to see, but rather than going counterclockwise, I'm now going clockwise. What happens to the club? Is it on plane? Is it right through my forearm? Did it shallow out? Not only that, it removes the hit instinct from the top. As you go to the top and start wanting to hit hard from the top, it's because you're moving in the wrong direction. If you go clockwise with your hands, the club shallows out, you maintain lag, which I'll show you face on in just a moment, and you no longer have that urge to hit hard from the top. When you look at it from face on, watch what happens to my lag. Because I'm no longer trying to move my hands in this counterclockwise circle, which forces me to cast the club, forces me to swing over the top. Instead, I just visualize my hands making a slight clockwise circle with my hands. Like you saw in the pros, my wrist also moves in this clockwise circle. So again, think of the wall, the clock on the wall, And not only are my hands moving clockwise to trace the clock, but my wrist rotation is clockwise. So when you see the club, you can imagine 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. That's the movement of my wrist, my elbow, my shoulder, my hands. And when you put this all together, club's on plane. When you look at it from face on, I have lag for days. It's all because I'm teaching you how to move your hands just like the pros in a clockwise path rather than what you're doing now, which is counterclockwise. And we'll talk more about how this ties into the body movement in the next video. But for now, practice this feeling. Watch yourself in the mirror, and you can really exaggerate this at first. It's kind of fun to do it, but it also helps you get the feeling, get out of your rut that you might be stuck in, making the same mistakes over and over again, to really exaggerate it. All the pros make this exact same move. Some do it more extreme than others. So if you really want to take an extreme example, take somebody like Matthew Wolff or Ryan Palmer. They take the club way outside, hands go way outside, and then they drop it in. People think Matthew Wolff's swing looks really crazy, and even though it is very homegrown and he taught himself this stuff on his own, he's doing the exact same thing I'm teaching you. Tiger Woods is doing the same thing. Jon Rahm, Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, they're all doing the same thing. This movement of clockwise movement with your hands and path is what gets the club to shallow out, which gets you to stop casting the club, gets the club on plane, fixes the path. That's how amazing it is. And it's so simple. All you need to do is go in the mirror and start practicing your hands and your wrist rotation moving in a clockwise circle for right-handed golfers rather than counterclockwise. So go out in your backyard right now, grab some wiffle balls, or if you've got a hitting net in the house, and just start practicing this feeling. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be this big exaggerated motion. Just do a little subtle change and you'll feel how, oh, the club settles, it falls, it shallows, it drops into the slot, and it happens automatically. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to fix your body movement so that you no longer feel the urge to swing over the top and rotate hard, and you're going to learn how to have effortless power just like the pros. Now in the next video in this series, I'm going to show you how your body movement is doing the exact opposite of what the best players in the world do, and I'm going to show you how to instantly correct it so you start having effortless power. You're able to use your body correctly and you stop fighting yourself in your swing. So make sure you check this next video in this series because it's going to completely change the way that you think about how to move your body in the swing.